Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name's Kevin. I am a developer advocate at Vonage. And today I am going to be wrapping up a multi-part project to build a video conferencing application with Netlify Functions, Vue.js, and MongoDB. Chat, if you could just give me some sign of life that you can indeed hear me. I once did a personal live stream, and for the first 5 minutes, no one could hear me, but I just went on. So I like to check that things are good before I'll go. Excellent. Thank you, Lauren, for the sign of life. So let's talk a little bit about what we've been doing for the last few weeks. We have been working on a serverless video conferencing application. We've been using MongoDB, been using Netlify Functions, so it's all serverless. So we've not had to keep a server running throughout. And we've been writing it in JavaScript and using the Vonage Video API. But throughout the course of the episodes before this, I encouraged contributions from the community, either as part of Hacktoberfest or otherwise. Now, one of the things around Hacktoberfest was all the PRs had to be approved or actioned before the end of November. So even though in the previous episodes I've waited to the beginning of this stream to review contributions live with you, I went ahead and did them before the end of October. October. Just so people could get kudos for work that they did. So what we'll start by doing, I suppose, is talking through what's happened since the last issue, the last episode. That's the word I'm looking for. So we had quite a few contributions. It was excellent to see. I'm just trying to remember which ones we have already done. I think the last one we did, I mean, we can literally see when they were merged in. I believe this one, while done by a member of our team, was done. Yeah, but when 14 days ago? Was it during the stream? I don't know. We'll start by talking. So there are a few that came in that were more like small typos, which are totally cool. I misspelt the word adhere. I think this one was also just a small. A link was broken. I won't go into those in too much detail. This PR here was one that I did live with you in the last episode, which was to make the client use Vue.js. Because while I said we were going to be using Vue.js, I didn't actually get around to it. So we went ahead and did that. Let's go to the closed ones. So this one by Nick Carrigan, who was very active throughout Hacktoberfest, excellently so, suggested a feature during the stream and then had built it not that long after. Could I get something a bit more solid? Yeah, there we are. Less than 50 minutes after the end of the last stream, went ahead and actually submitted it. It was excellent. Oh, you can't see the time, but as I hover over this, I get a little indication of when it actually happened. So let's look at the application. I've got it locally, and this is with all the PRs merged in. We can just run Netlify dev. Oh, Rascal, thank you very much. I'm glad that you enjoyed watching me take everything into a Vue.js application, and I'm also really happy that it generally worked quite well. Oh, what happened there? My default browser is not the browser I'm using, so now that's running. Let's go back to the browser, and I want to show you what this feature did. When you join, let me zoom out. When you join, you now also provide some pronouns. So we can go Kevin Lewis, we can say pronouns he, him, and we can provide a room code. Build a thing, final, enter room. And the way this was implemented, ignore this. This is This is just my default camera. So a few things have happened here. In the URL, we see that my name is now the name I provided, Kevin Lewis, a hyphen, and then the pronouns I provided, he/him. And over here, we see it says Kevin Lewis, he, him, and other users would see this in their video tile of me. In fact, it is bothering me that it's not my current camera. Let's go ahead and change that. Can I set the default? Yep, to this. And then I can refresh this page. There we are. Hello. So it says he, him. Excellent. So the only thing I noted when talking about this feature live on the last episode was this could become quite a long string when people are taking part in the messaging. So if we go into a message, we see that's actually been cut off by the CSS, but that text in there is only my name. It's not my pronouns as well. So if I had a short name, if I change that to say just Kev, I can do that in the URL. And we send a message. We see it doesn't have my pronouns, even though that is actually part of my username. So I commented on this as part of the PR. Let me find it. Let me just return to the home page here. So they do that, and the way that's done is by only showing in the name field here everything before the dash. They use the dash as the delimiter and only show the first bit. I do make a note here that this wouldn't work in the real, like if this was a real serious application we were building, because a hyphen is a valid character in many names. I know plenty of people who have double-barreled first names or last names, and this would basically cut their name off or part of their name off. So totally good for the sake of, a really, really quick contribution in the real world, perhaps slightly less sensible. Nevertheless, that was merged in, and as a result, earned Nick a Hacktoberfest credit, one of the 4 PRs, although I'm pretty confident by this point they'd already met their required threshold. So that was add pronouns feature. Then I created an issue. It was quite a beginner friendly issue. In fact, I think I marked it as such. In my original code base, I just had one huge, in fact, oh no, I can't show you anymore because I've merged it in. One huge function for when the application is created. Oh, look, if you highlight one, it highlights the other. That's really cool. So I just wanted someone to come in and just split this logic up into a couple of methods and then call each of the methods, which is what they did. So inside of my created method, it now calls off to 4 smaller methods, one of them to initialize the session, one of them to handle the logic when we get someone else's video in, one when someone leaves, and one to handle all of the signaling. So that is for the locking a room and the messaging. So it's just split up into 4 slightly smaller methods like so: 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it just makes it a little easier to read, understand, and maintain. Exactly what I asked to happen. So that also got merged in, and we actually had a nice back and forth. I said their initial contribution, I just said, I think this could be split up further. Could you do something else? They went ahead and added an extra commit, and I went ahead and said thank you and merged that in, earning them a Hacktoberfest credit. So this issue here was a great example of checking in with maintainers before you start work. Not to say I didn't appreciate Tim's contribution, but this contribution was exactly the same as the one done by the previous person. Not implemented in exactly the same way, of course, but it handled the same issue. And I'd actually assigned that issue to the other person. And if they noticed that, they might not have wanted to spend time on it, or if they'd asked, I would have told them this one's already being handled. So just a heads up, as you're contributing to open source projects, don't just blindly do work. Like, check in with the owners, the maintainers of repositories, that they still need support in that given area. This final PR was a slightly mixed bag. Anch was amazing, and we had many chats over the Hacktoberfest Discord rather, throughout the Hacktoberfest period. They were interested in implementing screen sharing in the application, and I pointed them towards a screen sharing Nexmo blog video. I suppose we'll find it. Here we are. Here is a blog post which a colleague and I wrote together earlier in the year, showing how to do exactly this: implement screen sharing in your application using JavaScript. There were some subtle differences. For example, this blog post doesn't use a framework, and we were using Vue.js. It also uses Express.js on the back end, and we were using Express, but through Netlify Functions, so it was slightly different. But the basic logic and understanding of how to implement this feature is covered in this blog post that I shared with them. What the contribution ended up being was verbatim the code base from that blog post just dumped into this code base. It didn't integrate into the existing application, and actually in one case broke the application because it wasn't an effort in learning the skill and then applying it in this context rather than running through the blog post, and that's brilliant, but then just popping the exact code base in here, and it didn't work. So we had a bit of a back and forth, and I closed this. I said, if you want to keep working on it, by all means do, but it's not appropriate to merge this because it will break the existing application. So fantastic effort, wasn't quite right for this application. And that was everything that has happened since the last episode of Build a Thing. So we don't have screen sharing. However, our created function has kind of been refactored and split out, and we have this brand new pronouns feature. Let's look at our code base. We looked at it in the context of GitHub UI, but just to show it again, we have this created function, which is now, if I just shrink this very slightly, now a lot shorter. This is the whole created function. And that's better. And then we have, it's okay, buddy. It's okay. So last night was bonfire night. Moo, baby, stop. Last night was bonfire night in the UK. It's the night where I don't think celebrate is the word, but it's, historically some do try to blow up Parliament and failed. Guy Fawkes. You may know Guy Fawkes from the V from Vendetta mask or the anonymous masks or whatever. Anyway, around that time of year, ton of fireworks. Everyone loves a firework, except for dogs. So it's not a great time of year to have a pet. I just heard some fireworks go off then. I heard him bark, so we'll probably be hearing more of that, unfortunately. So now, instead of all of this code being inside of created, it's split up into functions that also describe what they do, just making that a little easier to understand. The locking functionality is still there from when Mary Jo contributed to this application. And yeah, I think that's really excellent, as well as that pronouns feature. The pronouns feature is fully on the front end. So if we go to room.html. Oh, wait, sorry, that's where we are now. It is submit messages. Here we are. We just split out the name from the pronouns using the space hyphen space as a delimiter. To be fair, there is a space on each side of the hyphen, and that isn't too common to see in double barrel names. So could be okay. All right. So this is the last episode. This is where I want to kind of wrap up and get this application into a shape that we could, that we could share. And then that'll be the end of this project, which is a little sad in some ways, but also excellent to see it come full circle and come to the end. So there might be some styling things today, and we may well add screen sharing. We may not get around to it. However, we'll see what we can do. Let's take a look through the issues I opened. Let's see if there are any that can be closed. So, right, let's see what we've got. Ability to screen share. we could do. There was a green screen, but I currently don't have mine behind me, so that would be a little difficult to test. Allow recording of calls, which in Vonage Video API land is called archiving. Allow users to edit the mic and video source. As you saw, it just picked my default, and that wasn't the one I wanted. Ability to mute users, making publishers more prominent. Technically was done, I suppose, but I ended up doing this, and it's fine. It could be better yet. Better organized properties in the data object. That was just a little good first issue. Not something we need to focus on today. Move the room locking logic into its own Netlify function. We absolutely could do that, but I think it's a little boring compared to what else we could be doing today. So let's resize my browser as well. Yeah, there we are. What should we work on? We could do some screen sharing stuff and maybe doing some CSS just to make it look a little nicer. This is what it looks like currently. Not terrible. Let me just make sure I've muted this. I have. Let's open that in a new tab. We see our subscribers go down there. And also, look, this sidebar has some. Yeah, I think we'll focus on making this look a little different first, eh? Looking good, though, like broadly. What I'm thinking of doing is moving the publishers to just a thin bar at the top and maybe center them. Most people's cameras are in the center of their screen at the top. And sometimes I do find myself just checking that I'm looking okay in the camera. I think we all do that, by the way. I hope it's not just me. I've just outed myself as a narcissist to the max. So why are our videos always off at the side in the corner, or at the bottom? Like, why is that a good idea? So maybe if we stick it in the middle of the, in the middle here at the top, that might help. So yeah, let's just do a little bit. Let's do a little bit of CSS here. Oh, and what we could use in order to do this, just while we're here, is we could have a little go using Tailwind, which is a lovely CSS framework that I really like. And I've used quite a lot, so I reckon I could be quite quick with it. And basically, instead of writing CSS, we'll end up writing classes, very Bootstrap-like, but if Bootstrap was made in 2020. So why don't we just try this? We've got, an hour and a half. We can also, play around with Tailwind a little. There are multiple ways to install this. It's not recommended that you use the CDN because it's quite a chunky file, but we'll use it for the sake of speed. So we'll go grab that and we'll go here. And in room.html, which is the one we'll focus on first, we will include Tailwind. And then I'm actually going to comment out the style.css. Just completely get rid of it. And let's try and do all of this just with Tailwind. So if I refresh now, yeah, not looking amazing, but you can see it's done some things. Let's just crack on, see what we can do here. Okie dokie. Right. I'm somewhat tempted to... No, ignore what I'm saying. Right. We'll start with the publishers. So we need an ID of publishers, and we'll want that to go at the top of the application. I've decided, going to just comment all of this out, and we'll bring parts in as we style them. So this is the app. The first thing we're going to do, I suppose, is create the bar that goes along the top. I do know how to do this with Tailwind, but I want to kind of show a little bit about how it works. There, search here. So if we go header, responsive header, exactly. Kind of something like this. So we just use a bunch of classes, things like BG Teal 500, which is a color, flex, and then item center, justify between. These are all Flexbox CSS commands, but we write them as classes. This is basically what we're going to be doing. So let's go back to our code. And let's go ahead and start writing some Tailwind. So we'll create, so you don't need to name it header anymore because we're not going to attach CSS styling to that, but we will use the semantic header tag. So we'll give this a few classes. We'll say BG purple or pink 600. It's one of their colors from their color selection. So we'll give it a background color. We'll give it a padding. We will give it a display flex. We'll say flex. How do we do flex? I think we say flex row and justify center. And inside of here, we can put our publishers div. We'll see how this looks. Let's go back here. And let's go to our application and refresh. Literally not a million miles off of what we were trying to achieve. The video is a little on the big side, however. But that's fine because we can control that in the JavaScript of when we create publishers. So let's take a look. We create a publisher, this.camera. Where do we create that? Here, this.camera. So we're saying don't mirror the video. This is the name to show in the little black bar at the top. Add this to the current publishers div. And I think in here we can just give it a width. If we say width, I don't know, 200. Let's see what impact that has. Correct. We also need to change the height, however. So this is the point where I'm going to just remind myself of like a really small, here we are, 256 by 144 is what we'll do. So we'll say width to, oh wait, isn't that a bit bigger than we want? We tried doing 200 across and it wasn't quite right. Let's try it out. 256 and the height will be 144 because our video does not need to be big. I'm going to stick this second one over here so I stop clicking on it first. Refresh. All right. I'd literally want it at like half the size. So 128 by 72. Refresh. That feels a bit better. Just small at the top. We could probably knock down the padding as well. So instead of P4, we'll use P2 to shrink that a little. There we are. You know, that's there. It's at the center. You notice the UI slightly changes now. So we don't get to see the name, but that's okay because it's just our video. We don't need to see the name of our video. I might even be inclined to half it again. It really can be very small. So 64 by, what's this? 36. Refresh. Brilliant. That's it. We just need a tiny little video showing our own little preview there. It doesn't need to be anything else. We could probably make the width slightly bigger because they don't. Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. All right. So that's our own little publisher up there. What else is important up here at the top? If we have time, we'll do screen sharing and we'll display our own screen over here as well, because that is another publisher. Okay. Next thing we're going to do then is build this kind of left area for the other people's videos, and then we'll do the right area for the chat. So let's go back to our code. And we'll use main. It's the main area. The main area will be split into two. We'll say, should we just go straight in with subscribers? Oh, and now I think about it, there are other things we need to do up here. We need to add the lock button. We should probably do that over here. Yeah, that tracks. That makes sense. Let's how can we do that? I can't quite remember how to do that with CSS anyway. Self-align flex, line self. Is this it? Let's take a look. That's way too small for you to see. Align self flex end. Is that going to work? Because basically I want to just push one over all the way to the right, but I still want these to be centered. We could even just use some kind of grubby float them right, but I want to avoid that. Let's figure that out. We'll call these controls. Just to kind of see. Yeah, they end up here, which is not what we want. So what happens if we go align? I don't actually have to do this in Tailwind either. I won't keep flipping back to the browser, but I will just go align self, and I'll tell you. It's self dash. So if I go self dash end, but I think what that will do is it'll actually push it to the bottom. It won't necessarily push it. Yeah, it won't push it to the end. All right, what about align self on justify? Something like that. Oh, justify self. Okay. Let's just take a look at the MDN page for this. Justify self. We don't have a justify items or justify self. Yeah, that isn't what I want to do. I don't want to push some to the left and some to the right. Okay, there are, I can build this layout. Instead, what I'll do is I'll put this control at the top of the chat window. I'll put the controls here. Not necessarily what I want to do, but it will work and it will keep our pace for tonight. I am now feeling oddly under pressure to get everything done today. Not a bad thing. It will keep us moving, but yeah, now it's like, yeah, all right, we got to get it done now. All right, we'll remove these controls. Right, so we have this main area. The first area we'll have is for the videos, and then the other one we'll have is for the chat. So on main, I kept saying like, oh, I know Tailwind, and it turns out I can't remember a damn thing. How do we do grid in here? Can we do grid template rows? Because I don't want them all to be the same size. This might be where we need to just break out and add a tiny bit of our own CSS. This is excellent if you want equally sized columns, but that isn't what we want. Or, grid auto columns. Yeah, that isn't what we want. All right, I might have to break out just for the grid. Just for the grid. That's okay. In the vein of Tailwind, I might just write some inline styles for this then. I normally would tell people not to do, but this is okay. It's okay because I need it to work now. Display grid template, columns, auto, and then we'll say maybe the sidebar is 100 pixels. And what we can do to help this is actually look at what our style.css was. If I look at chat, give it a width. Publishers. Oh, looks like we didn't. That's odd. Okay. Oh, grid template columns. 100 pixels. 1 FR. No, that isn't what we wanted. Here we are, 300 pixels for the sidebar. So that's what we'll do. 300 pixels for the sidebar. It was a good width, I think. Gap, 2 That's all we need to do here, actually. Now, in videos, class will just say BG red 100, just so we can see it. And here we'll say BG green 100. Here I'll call this videos, and we'll call this chat, just so we can take a little look at it. And we'll give each one a little bit of padding. Now let's take a look at that. That should be a bulk of our layout kind of handled. Yeah, we have the video section. I'm not sure if you can see it on stream. It's very subtle, but the videos go here and the chat goes here. Another thing I've seen is like sticky headers and footers with Flexbox, and I'm not sure the right way to do this. I think the right way to do it is we add a class on. I keep referring back to a resource, actually. It's like solved by Flexbox sticky footer, and I think we can use the same thing to make sure the other two elements are as tall as they can be. Yeah, so we give a minimum height to the whole site. Display of flex, a flex direction of column. And then we give the main part of the site flex of 1. I'm not sure if this is going to work. I'll be honest, but let's find out. So what do we need to do here? It was up here. Class flex column, and min height 100 VH. Let's figure out how to do that in Tailwind. Oh, too many tabs. Min height 100 min H screen. That's the name of the class we want. Here. And then the main will give a class of well, in fact, as we're doing these ones in line, we can just say flex1. No idea if this will have any positive impact, but let's see. It did. It did not. That's not what I wanted to see. Let's just check we're adding our flex direction correctly. I think we were. Oh no, look, it's flex col. Yeah, not flex column. Okay. That did absolutely nothing at all. That's okay. This is not the thing I'm going to spend a ton of. But is it a thing I'm going to spend a ton of time on? No, it makes no difference. So what I'll do is I'll keep this. I'll remove these because they're no longer necessary. Now the main, while I'm here, will have a minimum height. So we'll say min height. No, they won't. What are we going to do? Because we want the height. Want the height here. We don't want it to be a 100 viewport height because that doesn't factor in this pink section we have at the top. My decisions. We'll do the chat first. So we'll say, let's see if we can do this with the classes. So min height. Yeah, the only options are 0, 100%, or 100 VH, which is min H screen. Okay, all right. Just trying to think what's the best way to do this that isn't janky. Because we know the height. We know the height of pink. It'll always be the same because we set the size of the video. It will be, come on, it will be 64. Wait, is it 64, including the padding? Yeah, it's 48 plus 8 plus 8, so it's 64. So with that in mind, what we'll do is we'll say to chat, definitely not the nicest way to do this, but it will do. Min height or height, we'll always make it the same height. Height, calc, 100 viewport height minus 64 pixels. Now that'll always be that height. We can ignore this because we haven't put that in the right place yet, but that's the basic layout for our page then. The videos will go here, the chat will go here, and we'll set the chat to scroll. That's something we need to do as well if we send too many messages. And this is always the same, even if we shrink the height, it doesn't exceed the bottom, which is good. Okie dokie. Let's continue on then. We'll start with the videos, I think. So let's take a look at the code here. We had the lock room. That's fine. We'll add that back in a bit. We had the publishers at the top. Basically, we just had the subscribers. That was all we had in the video section. Subscribers. Maybe we want to do something with the subscribers as well in terms of styling, but let's just throw that in there. Great. And if I was to join this again, there are two. That's fine. They're not looking quite right in my opinion, but let's see when we create what is the way of phrasing it in Vonage Video API land? When we subscribe to a stream here, can I add CSS in here? So session.subscribe. Let's go take a look at the docs together. Vonage Video API session subscribe. Oh no, this is a little too high level or beginner. Let's take a look at the API reference. And we are looking for a session. We're looking at subscribe. Now, what properties can we add? Target element, that's fine. Target element, but what are the properties? Here we are, audio volume, fit mode, height, insert default UI, insert mode, preferred frame rate, preferred resolution, show control style, which in turn is an object. What do we get in here? No, there's nothing in there for us. Test network width. I was hoping there was something else in there, but that's okay. We can do this with our own custom CSS. This will be where we have to whip out our own CSS file. That's okay. Let's just take a quick look at if I duplicate this again. Let's and we have another subscriber. Let's go take a look at what's actually happening over here. And I'll add this to the bottom. So inside of subscribers, we have one for each. This is actually very helpful because I think this is me just playing around. If we say to subscribers display flex, look, they're now next to each other. And that's a majority of what we want to achieve. If we say, or could we do it with grid? Display grid. Grid template columns. You know, 1FR, 1FR, 1FR. I don't think that's quite doing what we want. Or is it doing what we want? I'm cautious of my computer's physical. I see my battery actually going down, even though I'm fully plugged in right now. I'm doing quite a lot with the streaming. Oh, that's an old version there. But over here, this will just quickly give us the answer. No, that isn't what we want. So we do want to use flex. But that's okay. Let's go back to our code. And what we need to do then is actually we can add it. We might not need to write our own CSS file here. We might just get to go subscribers. Instead, we'll say flex row. That might be enough. And then when we when we subscribe, we could set a sensible width and height. So when we subscribe, we set the insert mode. And we're also going to set the width and height, not to the same small number. We'll set this to, I'm going to have to Google it again. I don't really know how to. So if we said 240p in pixels, you can't see this, which is fine. I need the answer. A 320 by 240. 320 by 240. And now if we refresh, that should all just feel a little, that should feel better, not non-existent. Okay, there we are. All right, there was a problem then. Can we not set the width and height? Pretty sure that's the place we do it. Let's go take a look at the docs. So we have session, subscribe. That's where we are now, I believe. Oh, subscribe. Here we are. Properties. Height is there. And I assume width will be down here. Yeah. So we can do that. Excuse me. Width and height. Pop it in subscribers. Oh, why did that just happen? Because I removed subscribers. That should be class and ID subscribers. Yes, Kevin, when you change things like that, it won't work, will it? So we can go ahead here and we can refresh. Great. It's showing people with like no gap in between them, but I think it's fine. It's looking respectable. We probably also just want to set like a flex wrap value. Let's see how we do that in Tailwind. Flex wrap. Right, just we add flex wrap. I'll just do that off screen. Flex wrap. So now if we have third item, it should just break down to a new line. Oh, it's doing it straight away, which means these are too big. Oh, because I'm zoomed in terribly. There we are. All right, that's it as it should be. I thought everything was much bigger than expected. Right, on that note, this is way too small, isn't it? Damn. Let's change that. So what we'll do is we'll say instead of these tiny numbers, we'll change it back to 256 by 144. Yeah, I thought those numbers weren't right. I was very confused, but it looked a certain way, so I didn't need to care. Right, that publisher should be just a tad bigger now. Yeah, that feels better, doesn't it? It could probably stand to go down one step. I don't know why I'm letting this bother me so much. It's so like such a minor thing. Yeah, let's do that. All right. And it'll automatically take us down to a new line when more people join. Great. Now we have this chat area here. This is looking all right. Oh, look, there is a little scroll and there shouldn't be. Why is the scroll there? Because I thought we made these 100 viewport height minus 64. Oh, because it's no longer 64, is it? It is now 88. So over in our thing here, we can say minus 88. Go back here, and that should have cleaned that up a little. Great. Nope, the moment you draw attention to the sneeze, it goes away. I was trying to save your eardrums. Okay, so the final thing really is just to get this chat implemented, and then styling wise, I think we're a bit more sound in what we're doing. Oh, and adding the lock to the top of the chat window. So let's talk about this chat window. The chat window in turn will come in two halves. There'll be the lock area. There'll be the chat area. And then inside of the chat area, we'll have the list and we'll have the form to add a new one. That's basically what we're going to build visually. Let's start with this lock. So if we create this input, this lock room button, and we'll throw that in there. We'll also do the same for the access code. So we'll also do the same for the button. No, Kevin, that's exactly the same thing a second time. Here we are, the button. That's all that needs to go up there. Let's think about how this is going to look. This is going to be a... how are we going to do this? We can just go flex, col again for the input. Probably give it a width. Then let's take a little look at tailwind. We'll go width. Can we add a percentage here? Yeah, look, we can. 60%. W3/5. So we'll add that as a class. That should do it. What I'll do is I'll set a background here of, I don't know, orange 200, just so we can visually see what's going on. All right, not quite there. The button is breaking down to a new line. So we'll want to maybe add a width to the button as well. And again, I'm just going to do this off screen for a moment. So I don't have to constantly be flipping back. So we can give that a width of 2/5 and refresh. All right, that did not do what we wanted. That's the button. Let's make this look like a button as well. Let's actually have it look like a button. Sweet. They're the classes to get the button above. I don't like the color, but we can deal with that in due course. I'm just going to add that to the button. Okay, brilliant. Not right, as we well have, or we could just do it at one above the other. Yeah, he says. Yeah, that should work. Let's before we do that, just take a quick look at inputs as well. Forms. Just take a look at how they style their forms. Yeah, this is quite nice. I'm actually just going to nab the whole set of classes. If we don't like certain elements, we can remove them. I do like Tailwind. As you're getting started with it, as you're learning how to use it in new contexts, it can be a little heavy-handed. I will say that much. I'm also going to remove the flex and the, yeah, I'm going to remove the flexes. Now for the inputs, we'll do that. And I'm just going to check in Tailwind how we do width 100%. It's been honestly, it has just been a few days since I used it last, but it's enough time to just completely forget some of these things. It is W-full. So here we'll say W-full and W-full. We'll remove this. And we can also put in here, in fact, lock button true can also come out. Okay. Let's refresh. That's looking better. Access code and a click to lock. For some reason that's no longer working. And I don't know if this room is locked or not. Let's dig into that for a moment. Did we remove some functionality by accident? Oh, was this a form? Was it a form before? Yeah, it was. Look, my bad. I need to just wrap it back in the form. In fact, we could just call this a form instead. And we can give it this submit action. So it never actually submitted. Here we are. I'll test that again in a moment. We probably also just want to give this a little padding. And let's go over here and refresh. Brilliant. Look at that. That's looking decent up here. I don't like the red outline. So let's just remove the relevant classes for that. It's on the input. So we have a red border red 500. We don't want that. In fact, what happens if we don't add any border at all? It still looks great. Still looks good. Great. Click to lock. And now click to unlock. Click to lock. And now that's disabled. Look at that. That's cool. And click to unlock. Sweet. Let's do a few just final bits up here then. If we're going to add a background to the form, I don't think it should be orange. We could just do a gray. I think we should add a tiny border radius to it. And I think we can do that just by providing the word rounded. No, that just stops working. Well, maybe instead of that, we could add a little line underneath, a border bottom. Let's find how to do that. Border bottom. Because we want here BB, and then we want to give it a width, say 2 pixels. So border bottom width. So we have to add the border width. Then we need to add the color. Yeah. So let's go do that. So what are we going to do at the bottom of this form? We'll get rid of that. And we'll get rid of the padding too, to be honest. And we can get rid of block. So we'll add a border bottom 2. We'll say border gray 600 or 400. Take a look at the output of that. All right, so that's there. We just need to add a tiny bit of padding to the bottom of the element. And I'm just going to do that again to save us the time there. So PB, or padding bottom dash 2. And we'll see what that does. Yeah, I'm happy enough with that. Depends what color we want this sidebar to continue being. Maybe we'll change it to a green line. Look at that. Lock. And then what we could do is even change the colors. So when it's locked, and it's, yeah, when it's locked and when it's disabled, we can maybe do some fun stuff with the colors here. So let's just really take a look at what's going on. So when it is disabled, let's see what we can do. Disabled buttons, right, what we want. Disabled forms, is there any? Go back to forms. Are there any examples of disabled elements? No. What about Tailwind disabled input state? Oh, here we are. Pseudo class variants disabled. The disabled prefix applies only to a utility when an element is disabled. Wow, if this is provided out the box, that's going to be awesome. So we can say instead, okay, the input has a background of white, as you would expect. And when it's disabled, give it a background of red 100, for example, just to see if that works. And I'm not sure if that's enabled by default. So let's refresh. no. But it isn't doing the same thing it was doing before. So our code did something. Interesting. Anyway, the other thing I think we should do is change the color of the button depending on state. This, fortunately, is quite easy to do in this context. So we have locked and unlocked. When it's locked, instead of giving it a class, when its room is locked, instead of giving it a class of locked, which doesn't do anything, let's give it the state bg red 500 because it's locked. Can I do an array in here? Let's find out. We'll also do hover bg red 700. And we'll get rid of these ones. Well, we broke something. I think it's safe to say we broke something. What did we break? Yeah, I don't think it liked that. View conditional classes multiple. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's not what I want to do. I mean, yeah, we could do it as I don't really want to set up a little. I don't want to store it in the Vue.js part like it's styling. I want it to stay up. Playing multiple classes. Use the array syntax. Yes. How? Let's just use their own array syntax. Yeah, that's fine, but I only want that to be the case when is active. Yeah, that's turning it on or off. That's not what we want. Although that could work. Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much more time on this. That is something, though, I want to go find out in my own time. Let me just close all these extra tabs. It's getting a bit much. Okay, so the syntax was wrong over here. What we'll do is we'll say red 500 is going to be the case when room is locked. Hover BG 700 will be the case when room is locked. And that should be enough just to get us started. If I go back to the browser and refresh, that is fine. That's fine because we've not set the other side. Look, it's red now. And then when we unlock, we want to give it the other styles. So that's okay. So now we say the same for when room is not locked, but we'll give it green. So the red and red, we'll say green. Let's make this whole sidebar just like a light gray. And let's also make that border a gray. And that should really help these colors, be apparent. Provide access code. Yes, okay. I think that is an incredibly light gray and I'm just struggling to see it. I'm going to just change it. Oh, why? Because I used the English correct spelling of the color gray, which is not the same. There we are. All right, so now we have click to unlock. Now, that just broke. Now it's not locked and the color isn't there. Am I missing something? So we're going to make it... Oh, I forgot to put the not room locked in here. And while I'm here, I do really want to get this background color for the input different when those two states are different. So let's, well, yeah, we can still use these disabled colors, I think. Let's try and figure that out. Because we don't have to use it using disabled, actually. We could do it using these conditional classes again. We can say conditional classes. We'll do background white when the room locked is not true. And we'll say background gray 300 when the room is locked. All right. Click to lock. Look, now it's clearly disabled. That's exactly what we wanted. And click to unlock. Brilliant. That's excellent. Now, the final thing in this kind of quite basic styling, I suppose, I want to do something where we make these video tiles not rammed against each other, but we can do that in a moment. Let's get this little chat window working on the right-hand side. So let's go back here. So we've done the locks, done the publishers, done the subscribers. Now we just have this chat section here. So let's pull that up to the top. And with this, we can delete all of this code. Goodbye. And here we have the chat section. So firstly, that should all just, like, it should work is the first bit. Let's get rid of the messages and let's work on the form input at the bottom. Should we do that? Maybe we should just create like a couple of fake messages, so we can know just so we know they're there. And then we have this form at the bottom. This form can basically borrow all the styling from the form above. And we can strip it back because it's not going to have any conditional styling. Let's just pop that down here and take a look. So we've got these classes. Right. In fact, no. Maybe we do a border top 2 instead, and a border and a padding top 2. So they're kind of bookended by these forms. Then we have the input. So we'll want to give let's go in and add classes at the start. So we're going to want to give it a BG of white. And then we can just go nab the rest of the styles here. Then we have the button. So this button can have a BG of pink 600. We may, this is easy enough stuff to change. And then we'll add these styles. Send. So that's us nabbing the styling there. Let's see how this looks. Okay, not bad. We have obviously these messages in the middle. We'll want to take a look at that. But then we have this section here. And as we type, why have messages gone into the void? Oh, because they're hard-coded LIs, these two. Right. What's the intended behavior here? Let's have a think. I like the fact that the messages start at the... We could put these messages, because really we want a form at the top, a form at the bottom, and they're always at the top and bottom. Then we have this middle section, and that middle section occupies the rest of the space, but you scroll as and when there are too many messages. So that's the kind of goal we're going for here. I think we can do that with Flex. So if we said, can we do it with Flexbox occupy rest of space? Here we are, fill remaining vertical space with CSS. Yeah, that's basically what we want. Let's look at the little solution there. Oh, there we are. You just give it a flex of 1. Oh, that's wicked. Okay. And while we're here, let's take a look at our flex options. Yeah, I think that's just giving it a class of flex 1 should do the trick. Let's take a look. So we have our chat. So that's going to be flex col. I think that's it. And then the messages here, we can say flex 1. Is that going to make sense? Let's find out. Do we need to do any more? My hunch says we do. The reality is we do. Okay, that's fine. Let's take a little look at this, at the structure of this as it pertains to SaaS. I'm going to just zoom out the browser one step. So we have the sidebar. We have this. Oh, why? Because it's not in the right place. We want it to go on this top element here. That didn't end up in the right place. And this form, in this case, we want to kind of go at the bottom here. So this gets the flex of 1. This doesn't get anything now. In fact, it's just an empty div. It's not doing anything. We can get rid of it. And then on the whole sidebar, we make it a flex of. Oh, you didn't see me doing that. I wrote some code. There we are. Let's see what it did. Hey, that's more like it. Look at that. That's great. Now, what happens if we add a ton more messages? Well, actually, let's focus on the styling of these messages and actually getting the correct messages in. So let's, I just uncommented that code because I keep forgetting to come back and change what I'm showing you. But if we take a look here and we just, let's, do they have any nice examples here? What's the best way of doing this? What's the best way of doing this? Because we kind of want this side area. You know, let's look at our current CSS. So inside of the li here, we did text overflow ellipsis. We gave it a fixed width. Let's open these side by side, and I'll just close my sidebar for a moment, and we'll open up room.html. Right. This is basically what we're trying to utilize. So we have the li. Let's add some classes to this. We'll give it a background of white. We'll give them a padding of 2, and we'll give them rounded. That will make a nice little box here. Yeah. Then we're using grid template columns. Maybe we should just do that. Grid template columns, 100 pixels, 1 FR. Word break. I'm going to just check the Tailwind docs. Word break. Break all. We can just add the class. It says break all. What else is important here? I think that was it. Margin bottom. So adding some margin bottom. MB422. Let's add it on the top and bottom, so we could do MY2. So that's that one. Then we have the label. So to add font size, it depends really what we want to do. To add font size, there's a load of them. You kind of go text and then you use XS, SM, LG, XL, 2XL, 3XL through to 6XL. That's how Tailwind does sizing units. So let's say we just want this to be small. Font size 0.9 rems. No margin bottom, no. So we need a margin right. So MR2. Then we have text overflow. This is me checking. We do this. Oh, there doesn't seem to be one for text overflow. Oh no, there is, I think. Text overflow. I'm gonna bring you back to the browser because I'm doing some exploring. Text overflow ellipsis, here we are. Truncate is the class we add. So on label, we'll add truncate. I think that might be, yeah, and that truncate adds all three of these, which is kind of nifty. And that seems to be about it. Let's go back to our browser and see what this looks like. Hello there. Kev, hello there. I think the idea, though, was that these would display side by side, and they're not. Though I do quite like, if I may add, I do quite like that they're on separate lines. But, oh, why? Because we said grid template columns, and we've not actually said that it is a that it's a grid. So that's needed too. Display grid. Semicolon. Is that in the code coming back now? Yeah, that's more like it. But now we're here, I'm actually thinking I quite like the way it looked before, more so. So let's just go undo some of this, I guess. All this display grid stuff, let's get rid of that. Instead of adding margin right 2 pixels, let's add, or 2, let's add bottom of 1. We're no longer going to truncate it, we'll just make it small. Yeah, that could be a bit nicer. So if we refresh. Hey there. Are you? Brilliant. Look at that. Lovely. Lovely. Now, we need to test what's going to happen when we end up with lots of them, lots of messages. And the way I'm going to just quickly alter the code temporarily is to stop it wiping the box once we send the signal, so we can just keep hitting send, 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 send. So let's do that. Let's look at the method for submit message. I'm just going to comment out this last line. We can test it. So if we refresh this, just keep hitting send, see what happens. See, so it pushes that div to be bigger. We want to stop that. We want to stop that. Let's, while we've got all of them, just play around with CSS in the browser developer tools, and that might give us a good indication of what we need to do. And I think it might be on this flex 1, if we say overflow Y, scroll. Maybe not. Yeah, look, that's it. Now we scroll. As I thought. Let's see how we do that in Tailwind land. Overflow Y. Go overflow Y, scroll. And we literally just add that as a class. I'm going to go do that so we don't have to necessarily do that together. Do. No, that's not quite right. Oh, no, 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 that is right. Just checking which element we did that on. We did that on the UL? I think we did that on the UL. There was that pesky sneeze from earlier. We did it on the flex 1 element. So we did that up here. I'm not convinced that's correct, but we'll see. Muting works when you have a hardware switch in front of you to do muting with. Yeah. It's quite handy in meetings where I think the like etiquette is that you mute until you want to talk. But having a hardware switch to do it is a lot less clunky. Let's test this. No, that's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Look at that. Hell yeah. Now, the only thing I want to know is that we're not automatically scrolling to the bottom. I would quite like to see that we push users to the bottom of this scrolling area. If I submit a message, see the scroll bar isn't at the bottom, and that could mean you miss things. Let's find out how to do that. JavaScript, scroll to end of element. To the bottom of the div. Let's take a look at how to do that. All right, that looks fine. Is there a view way to do this? View, scroll to bottom of element. Sweet. Great. That is, oh, hang on. I'm just going to use this solution because I don't want to spend forever on it. There seem to be slightly more elegant ways to do this. I want a way that works now so we can move on to do something else in the little bit of time we have left. So when we receive a message, subscribe signal, when it's a message, we'll push it into the array. Then what we'll do is we'll get the element that has an ID of, right, so we should add an ID messages. We should store this const list, and we can go list.scroll top equals list.scroll height, apparently. Let's find out. So let's refresh. So now we should always be, oh, look, we're not at the bottom now, are we? If I say new message, yeah, that is at the bottom, but we're not being pushed to the bottom, which is not what we were looking to do. Let's take a look. Scroll into view. What is this? Oh, this is new. This is a newer JavaScript thing. Okay, I'm down for that. Let's take a look. So it was these two that we don't care about. I'm going to just neaten this up even before we test it. This.l query selector. Go hash messages. And we can get rid of that portion. Then if L, we can do this. All right, let's try that out. A lot of fireworks. Hope the dog's okay. See, it's not putting us into the bottom. It's just putting us into, look, in fact, if we go to the bottom, it always scrolls us to the top. So that is not quite what we want. Let's keep looking. Interesting. That's very interesting. Because I don't want to go to the top. Oh, there's also this scroll into view behavior smooth. Interesting. I'm just going to try that out, even if this isn't the right solution, because I want to see how it works. I've done that in the code. I'm just going to refresh this. We go message. We keep doing those. And we scroll down and we hit send. Oh, look, it nicely scrolls you up. How cool is that? It's baked in. But can we get it to go to the bottom? Let's take a look. So if we use scroll into Vue.js bottom of element. Scroll into Vue. Awesome. Let's take a look at our options. Align to top. If force, so if we send align to top to force, the bottom of the element will be aligned to the bottom of the visible area. That might be what we want. Yeah, let's try that. So we have behavior smooth. Say align to top. False. And now that this is a multi-line thing, I will put these squiggly brackets back in just to keep it easier to track what's going on. Okie dokie, let's take a look here. Let's go message. Keep popping those in. Yeah, look, it's still not quite doing it. That's a shame. Maybe we're not meant to do it on the UL. Maybe hang on, let me just, oh, it didn't work. I forgot to take you back to my browser. It didn't work. So let's just take a look. So we have the UL, but it's not the UL that's doing the scroll. It's this element here. So why don't we add this ID up here? And that might have been the error here. Let's refresh. Try that out. Message. Where's my scroll? Nah, that's not quite working. New message. I'm halfway through it. Does it take me to the top? No, it takes me to the bottom. If I'm in the middle, where does it take me? It doesn't. It leaves me put, which means this is no longer working. That's a shame. Let's keep looking. So this scroll into view. Let's just, I might go a little slower and read these docs again. So the elements interface scroll into view method scrolls the element's parents container on which scroll into view is called visible to the user. So if we could go scroll into view align to top. Oh, my bad. Also, where's the mention of smooth scrolling? Interesting. I did this wrong. Align to top works when you only just put in the single value. We've put in an object parameter. So it should be behavior smooth, block end, inline nearest. That's why you just go a little bit slower. Behavior smooth, block end, inline nearest. When we're passing it in as a object. Now, if I just did align to top true or false as true or false there, that would be equivalent to these two. It isn't equivalent to putting behavior smooth. Because we want behavior smooth, we need to provide the whole object. Let's go back to our browser. And I think my hunch says this will be it. Am I on the bottom? I'm not. Oh, no. New message. But I did also change. The markup while testing that. I moved the ID of messages around. So I'm going to pop that back on the UL quickly and refresh the browser. Hey, look at that. Still not quite at the bottom though. Look, we're still one up from the bottom, which is odd. I wonder why that is. Is it because it is at the bottom underneath this element? Look at that. That's kind of weird, isn't it? It's just a little bit from the bottom. In fact, it's one complete message from the bottom. And that message, I think, fits perfectly in down here. Look at that. How weird's that? I don't think there's anything else we can block end. Yeah. Inline. Horizontal alignment, the vertical alignment. Yeah, I don't think. In fact, I think we just need block end. I don't think inline nearest is even necessary. That's for this way. The element may not be scrolled completely to the top or bottom, depending on the layout of other elements. Interesting. Interesting. Well, that's interesting. Don't quite know the right way to remedy that. Look, it's always just slightly off. Okay, well, for some reason that isn't going to work perfectly. What other options have we got? Well, we could just use we could go back to using setting scroll top to the scroll height, so it always pushes down to the bottom, and then we can use view refs. So we add a ref to the element we want to scroll, which is this one. And in fact, that means we don't need the ID anymore. And then when we get an incoming message, we set the scroll height to the height of the element, all things considered. So that's a shame that that other one didn't work, and I could spend more time trying to remedy it, but I want to be done with this, if I'm honest, this part of it, so we can maybe do just one other bit. So message display will change for messages. It's all right, doggo. I hate fireworks. It really upset the dog. Anyway. See, it's just not. Now, is there some warning in the console about this? Yeah, look, lots. Maybe I should have come here earlier. View content is not defined. Oh, it didn't work. There was an error. And the error was because I used view content. I think I can just say this.refs. Now we'll go back to the browser. We can type in a message. Error occurred. The event handler message display not defined. This was me being poor in copy and pasting and then changing some things. I've just changed that. We'll try this. Are we at the bottom? No, we're still at the top. What's going on? Very annoying. Very annoying. Okay. This just doesn't feel right. Let's we could just see what's going on here. So if we go app.refs, we have one app.refs.messages, right? So we'll store that in a variable called m. Right, so m is the UL. Then, maybe we'll just play around with this for a minute. Can I not just set the scroll top to scroll height? So if I say m.scroll top equals 10, that didn't, oh wait, hang on, did that do anything? No, not at all. So that part is not correct. But that seems to continuously be what is suggested as the bit that needs scrolling. Maybe it's not the UL then. Maybe it is the maybe it's the parent element. So let me go. I'm just going to do this off camera. I'm moving the ref messages up a level. If we go here, so M is now that part there. Let's send some messages. Oh, wait, hang on. That is kind of working now. It's pushing us towards the bottom. Let's just take a look. Scroll top equals 10. Right, that moves us to the top. If we go m.scroll height, that's the full height of it, 1350. Right, that's the whole height of m. In everything, including what's out of view. If we go m.scroll top equals m.scroll height, that should push us to the bottom. It is. That's it. All right. So going back to our code then. Very odd, but going back to our code. I know why this is happening. I think it's just it's not all happening at the same time. So if we go view.nextTick, if we make sure it's in the DOM first, we can go view.nextTick, and then we can write this code. I think it was trying to push us down to the bottom before that element had rendered, before that new li had rendered. Let's have a go here. Message. There we are. Now we're at the bottom, which leads me to ask, did the other solution that we wrote earlier, would that have worked? If I take a look, if I go back to Stack Overflow quickly and we use the scroll into view, behavior smooth. So if I come back here, this is the one we want to comment out, and we say messages.scroll into view. And I'm going to need to just open that up in the browser for just a moment. MDN scroll into view, just to refresh myself on those parameters. Here we are. Behavior, no, not English spelling there, thanks. Smooth. And the block is going to be end. So if we had done this, is that going to work? Now that we've put it in view next tick. Oh, if I've really spent like 20 minutes on just this for this reason, I'll be really upset. Okay, well, that isn't working. Which in some ways is good, I suppose. Was that how we did it though? Scroll into view. Let me just copy this, and I'm actually just going to do like a let's step back through what we did. Let's not forget everything we did. Okay. Sure. And the ID of messages, let's just make sure, is this. Now, if we go to the code we were writing, so in here, we say view.nextTick. We throw this code in there instead. That, and we don't need this last. In fact, I'll leave everything in. Because that fixed us. Because, yeah, my sneaking suspicion is it will. It should do a nice little scroll into view as well. No. Okie dokie then. Let's, I can't just, oh yeah, no, I did copy it. So we can just go view next tick and we'll pop that in there. We'll pop that in there as well. We'll add a ref. We'll add a ref of messages here. I think that was the way we did it. And if we refresh now, that should work. There we are. Always pushing to the bottom when there are new messages. And now the final bit, because I did say it was only temporary, is there was a line that once we sent a message, cleared the box. We just want to pop that back on. All right. I'm basically happy with this now. Let's apply the let's remove this light pink background and apply this very thin styling to the other pages. And then we're done. If we add a gap of 2 pixels, look at that, much better. So if we add a gap of 16 pixels or add a gap of 8 pixels, yeah, that looks the same. So we'll do that on the subscribers div. So subscribers, oh, I think I passed it. Subscribers, we'll just add a quick style there, and that'll just be gap 8 pixels. Was it 8? I think it was 8. If we refresh, we should just get a little updated styling. They should just be separated slightly. Beautiful. You can't see it. Whoops. There we are. Quite happy with that. And in the code, I know I'm not showing this to you. I'm just going to remove the background red 100 class. Just to remove that. And now this is our video conferencing application. Very happy with that. Okay. Yeah, very good. All right, let's just take our eye briefly to the other couple of pages here. There's this one. This is pretty fine, to be honest. In fact, I could probably nab one of the Tailwind direct examples of a form and apply it. So if we go up here and we type in forms, login form will be fine. And we can basically just nab this. No point reinventing the wheel. So on the, I'm going to just close that one now. Now, if we go to index.html, the home page, I'm going to just comment out everything in this div for a moment. I'm going to get rid of the body classes as well. I'm going to just dump this code in for just a moment. It won't have any logic behind it. And I just want to make sure that I have the Tailwind style sheet. Can comment this one out and pop that one in. So what were the fields we had? We have a username, ID username. So we have a username. Where are we? ID username. In fact, that one was already there for us. We have pronouns, which is exactly the same. So I am just going to consolidate some of this onto one line just to keep it a bit easier to read. And I might use word wrap here. There's our username. And we'll use pronouns. Pronouns. Finally, we had a room code. We called that ID of room. So everything pronouns becomes room. This one gets a capital R. This one gets a capital R. Call that one code. We'll call this one room code. So they're the three fields. Then we had this password one we can get rid of. Finally, we had the sign in button as they made it, and they had a forgot password too that we can get rid of. That on a single line, and we'll say enter room. Bottom here, we can just say built live on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Vonage devs. Built live on Twitch. Code on. I'm going to just get this. Save myself typing it one character wrong. Here we are. Code on GitHub. And I think that's as we're nearing the end of this project in its entirety, I think that would be just a nice thing if people do end up running this themselves. And I think that's everything. We can delete that. And we have our script. Let's go back to the browser. So this is the before, big reveal. This is the after. Not bad, not perfect. They also centered theirs. There is a bit more code here that they didn't show, which is slightly annoying. Fortunately, I basically can do this with Tailwind. So we have our max width here. This is a background of white. So if I said BG gray 200, but with the American spelling. Oh, you didn't see that. Whoops. Let's go back here. So we'll give this body a class. Then here we'll say margin left and right. So on the x-axis, auto. And we'll say margin top 10. And that should basically get us there. Look at that. We'll do just a couple of other quick things. So on the button, we'll make that. We'll take the button from the form submit for the messages here. I think that's quite nice. We'll use that exact set of classes. And I think that might be all we need to do on this one. There we are. It will work the same way. So username, Kevin, pronouns, he, him, code, that final interim. Oh, I think I've deleted some IDs that are necessary. Let's take a look. Cannot read add event listener of null. Whoops. Let's go back to our code. This was my bad. Right. When we submit the enter form, ID enter, then we'll get room username pronouns. I think that might have been fortunately all we were missing. So we'll go, let me open the console here. Kevin, he, him, and that final. Enter room. Okay, that still didn't work. Y. Get element by ID, enter. Was that on the form? Can't quite remember. Let's look at what we have in GitHub. Build a thing video. Let's look at the code as it stood at the beginning of this episode. Client and index and the form ID enter. Yeah. Form ID enter. Maybe I didn't refresh the browser, but I think I did. ID enter. I think I just did that by accident. We add the script and end body. Let's try that once more. If I hit enter rim now. So it isn't erroring, so something is happening. It isn't. But at the same time, it is not happening. What is going on? I mean, this looks sound. Get element by ID. Enter. ID of enter. Unless there is another enter here. No. Right. Get element by ID, enter, add event listener. So we can just console log here. Button pressed. Let's try that. Let's just validate that this event listener is firing. It isn't. Fine. Right, there's something up here. Let's take a look. We have this form with an ID of enter. It has an input with an ID of username. It has a input with an ID of pronouns. And it has one for room. Now, and then we have a button, type button, enter room. So that should submit the form. So here we're saying document.get element by ID enter. That's the form. Maybe we could do a query selector. We can just say form. Case. It's that part. There's something funky going on here. Maybe we've messed our tags up. We'll form with an ID of enter. No. And the button's in there too. So we tap the button. Then it submits the form. Well, we can do this instead on the button press, which I'm down for. Document.query selector button. See, that isn't working. Is there something up with the button? Just removed one. Oh, that was correct. Right. For some reason, this did have a type of button. Removing that has changed it. It now seems to want to work. If we go username, Kevin, pronouns, he, him, code, bat, final, and hit enter room, it didn't work. And why didn't it work? Oh, because we don't submit with the button. We take the form. Right, yeah, this was a small code error. Kevin, he, him, bat, final, enter room. Perfect. Works as expected. Now there was one other view that needs amending. If we lock the room and refresh, we hit access code. This, fortunately, is going to be more of exactly what we just did. So if I go to our code, and this will be the very final thing we do, sad face. Grab this div, go to access required, set the body to have a class of bggray 200. Just get rid of this main for a moment. Paste in the div. Now we can get rid of this p. Now there is only one field required here, which is the access code. When Mary Jo made this page, she gave this an ID of access code. So for access code, ID access code, and finally code. Maybe we don't need the placeholder here. I think it's fine. This form has an ID of access form, an ID of alert message, which we'll just throw in here. That should be fine. That should be fine. I'll delete what was already there. Give this a whirl. The little, and why didn't that do what we expected? There's no tailwind in this site, in this page. So let's just do that. And let's refresh the browser. Brilliant, access code. Checking code, and off we pop. So that's us. Let me commit this and push it up to GitHub. Although there are just a couple of tiny things. I actually am going to remove style.css from all 3 pages. Like so. And I am going to go as far as to actually just delete style.css. It is now not required. So with all of that in mind, let's stop this running for the last time. Let's create a new commit, move front end to use tailwind CSS, git push origin main. Now, if you are interested in picking up this project and taking a look at it, it now won't be something that I am going to be doing on my stream, but it's still there. It still exists. I'll still, as and when is appropriate, answer PRs should you be interested. The link is right here. If you are interested. So that's our latest commit. Just before I go, I wanted to let you know about Vonage Voyagers. Vonage Voyagers is a program that we run here at Vonage, and it gives you access to pre-release products that we're working on and training to help you be a better developer and a better content creator for developers. You have to apply. So if you want to apply, you can go to, if I just go to the chat here, that should work fine. There we are. Click the link in the chat right now and you can apply. It takes 5 minutes. And if you know anyone who wants to be a Vonage Voyager, you can nominate them as well. If you've contributed to one of our open source repositories, including this one that we've done here over the last few weeks, or if you use any of our APIs, you have what you need to be eligible for the most part. So go ahead and apply or nominate someone else. Normally we do a little what's coming next segment in these, but there isn't a next, so we're kind of done with this. Thank you to everyone who dropped by and contributed to this repository over the last few episodes. It's been absolutely excellent. There isn't going to be a project in the next episode of Build a Thing because we're going to go on a little break as we're nearing the end of the year. But in the new year we can, explore what's happening, and this show may well come back with this face or perhaps another face, or perhaps this face will be doing something else. Who knows? It'll be a new year. Hopefully 2020 doesn't, it does end in a few weeks. That's the goal, right? We get to the end of this thing together. So thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you found that interesting, taking our front end and tailwindifying it. Hopefully you feel enthused to apply to be a Vonage Voyager, and I will catch you soon. Goodbye for now.